Reddit, what scientific facts should everyone know? Story 1. Chemicals are everywhere. Every chemical has its uses and benefits. The term removing toxins doesn't apply unless you're suffering from a condition like heavy metals poisoning. Although your kidneys and liver filter out toxins, attaching onions to your feet won't help with that. I don't understand who came up with that. It's just illogical. Story 2. Your brain reacts to the other person as if they were high while you're in a fresh romantic relationship. Less than about 2 years. You're feeling down. Hold off making major choices till later. Update. Citation requests are numerous. Just type romantic love into Google Scholar along with terms like brain chemistry, dopamine, and reward centers, and you'll find thousands of results. Several behavioral elements of romantic love imply that it can be like a cocaine reward: intense, thrilling, hyperactive, unable to sleep, and lacking in hunger. Human functional magnetic resonance imaging (fMRI) investigations of cocaine addiction have confirmed findings from animal research. An acute injection of cocaine activates the ventral tegmental region. Several reports support our two predictions that 1. Early stage, intense romantic love is associated with subcortical reward regions that are also dopamine rich, and 2. Romantic love engages a motivation system involving neural systems associated with motivation to acquire a reward rather than romantic love being a particular emotion in its own right. Story 3. Everything you see in movies about nuclear reactors is incorrect since they are always in a critical state, which is the technical term for effectively functioning. Subcritical indicates that the chance of another nuclear core atom splitting as a result of one neutron produced by an atom is less than 1. This indicates that the nuclear process cannot continue on its own. As radioactive decay happens naturally, little chain reactions will happen, but they won't survive forever. This is the chance that another atom in the nuclear core will split as a result of one of the neutrons emitted when an atom splits. This indicates that the nuclear reaction can be maintained on its own and that the atomic splitting rate in the core will remain constant. That is the function of nuclear reactors. The supercritical level is equivalent to the probability that more than one atom in a nuclear core will split as a result of an atom's neutron emission. There will be an exponential growth in the atomic splitting rate. Keep in mind that this doesn't always portend an explosion. It took a group of some of the brightest brains in human history 3 years to create a nuclear bomb if all it took was raising the temperature of fissile material to extremely high levels. Story 4, meaning of we're all just stardust and the process by which planets form. It's absolutely accurate. Solar system stars, like our own sun, are actually enormous spheres of hydrogen that power their fusion reactions, which produce heat. The process of fusion releases energy when hydrogen atoms combine to form helium. To maintain the fusion process continuing, it then does the same to helium. That is how heavy elements that exist naturally are obtained. After a star's fusion fuel runs out, it becomes unstable, goes through a series of stages, and then explodes, releasing its energy into space. One of the pieces of that star, which had the components necessary for life, ended up circling another star, the sun, and is now a major player in the solar system. Further life rechristened that rock Earth after it had been around for a few billion years. That explanation is both mind-blowing and deeply humbling. The phrase, "we're all just stardust," isn't poetic exaggeration. It's literal truth. Every carbon atom in your body, every drop of calcium in your bones, every trace of iron in your blood, forged inside a dying star billions of years ago. The fact that a chaotic, violent stellar explosion scattered the ingredients for life across space, and some of those particles eventually formed this planet, which grew oceans, plants, animals, and us? That's awe-inspiring. It really puts things in perspective. We're not separate from the cosmos, we're part of it. Every sunrise, every breath, every heartbeat is a quiet echo of a long-dead star. So yeah, next time you feel small, just remember, you're made of the star fire and ancient cosmic dust. That's not just science, that's poetry written in physics. Story 5, theorizing in scientific language is the same as talking about theory in layman's terms. A notion with a set of testable hypotheses is what it signifies. When there are no viable alternatives to a theory, we say that it must be correct. To illustrate the point, ever since evolution was put forth, there have been efforts to debunk it, but to no avail. Furthermore, the hypothesis just offers an explanation for the wide variety of species on Earth, along with the similarities and distinctions between them. To deny evolution is to deny relativity or atomic theory, to name a few. The very foundation of contemporary biology and medicine is destroyed. Pleased to assist you. Story 6, the passage of time seems to speed up as one ages. In this case, we have, do you remember the long, long wait for summer when you were a child? Simultaneously, keep in mind the way your parents would exclaim, "What? I can't believe it's already July." You weren't seeing time the same way that they were. Because you're living through ever decreasing fractions of a lifetime, each year seems to fly by. You would place a high value on a $10,000 present, but Bill Gates would see it as completely irrelevant. Story 7. The process of evolution from apes to humans is not some mystical force operating on a grand scale. Personally, I don't think it's necessary to believe in evolution. It's an inherent process. No two people in a population will always have the same fundamental needs. That is primarily caused by hereditary factors, and it is fairly apparent. Think of elephants. Slower elephants have less time to procreate than faster or stronger elephants because they are more easily caught by wicked lions. Elephants are continuously evolving in terms of their qualities. It is also rather clear that mutations are taking place. A triangular shape with 3 limbs and 2 brains. On occasion, these alterations help with survival. Perhaps it has a longer neck or sharper teeth. Because they have access to more food, individuals with these mutations live longer and can procreate more frequently. Thinking in such a way was, of course, revolutionary during Darwin's lifetime. To this day, I still don't understand how some individuals claim to be against evolution. Story 8. Brominated vegetable oil is slowly poisoning American citizens who drink Mountain Dew. Bromine has many negative health effects, one of which is its ability to disrupt thyroid function. Because bromine is used in place of iodine in processed foods and bread, most people are low in this mineral. Regarding fried vegetable oil, when BVO was first classified, the FDA said it was generally recognized as safe, but they later changed their minds. The Food and Drug Administration, FDA, has temporarily authorized the use of BVO as a food additive under specific circumstances, pending the results of additional studies. American bread made using bromated flour. In terms of human carcinogen potential, bromate is classed as a Category 2B substance by the International Agency for Research on Cancer, IRC. The European Union, Canada, Nigeria, Brazil, South Korea, and Peru are among the many countries that have outright forbidden the use of potassium bromate in food items. Both China and Sri Lanka outlawed it in 2005 and 2001, respectively. On brominated vegetable oil. Although the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, originally categorized BVO as generally recognized as safe, the agency later reversed that decision. Currently, under certain conditions and on an interim basis pending more research, the FDA allows BVO to be used as a food additive. Bromated flour used for bread in the US. Bromate is considered a Category 2B, possibly carcinogenic to humans, carcinogen by the International Agency for Research on Cancer, IRC. Potassium bromate has been banned from use in food products in the EU, Canada, Nigeria, Brazil, South Korea, Peru, and some other countries. It was banned in Sri Lanka in 2001 and China in 2005. This one's honestly shocking and kind of infuriating. The idea that substances like brominated vegetable oil, BVO, and potassium bromate are still allowed in US foods, even while so many other countries have outright banned them, really raises some serious red flags. BVO isn't just some obscure additive. It's been in popular soft drinks like Mountain Dew for decades, and it's not harmless. It's linked to thyroid disruption and displaces iodine, which is essential for healthy hormone function. So if you're drinking this stuff regularly, you could be slowly messing with your endocrine system and not even know it. Story 9, 2 competing ideologies have won over a sizable portion of the general public. First, that everything in the cosmos is moving in perfect harmony, as if someone were to set a big clock in motion. and that if they knew enough about the present, they could accurately anticipate what the future held. The second is that we can't control the future and that anything can happen at any moment. This belief is sometimes accompanied by the equally naive notion that our thoughts can bring about specific outcomes. A correct comprehension of contemporary physics debunks both of these theoretical traditions. The study of probability is essential to the physical sciences. Since the scientific process relies on induction to temporarily endorse one theory over another, this is, in a way, inherent to it. However, according to quantum physics, probability is an inherent part of the cosmos. That is, we couldn't know for sure what the future held, even if we could circumvent the scientific method and obtain complete knowledge of the universe as it is right now. Still, it doesn't mean anything is completely out of the question. In everyday life, the odds of one event occurring, like the baseball keeping its shape and heading toward the batter, being significantly higher than the odds of another event, like the baseball becoming a toaster, so it's better to disregard the latter. This is because the mathematics of statistics still holds true. Furthermore, there is zero proof that quantum probabilities are uniquely affected by the human brain. Most of the time, events unfold according to the predetermined impersonal rules that we have established. Story 10, The Sky, which inspired nearly every intellectual ancestor, deserves a better education so that all people might look up at it and have a faint idea of what it meant to them as their civilization evolved. The inability of city dwellers to see the stars makes them cherish even the fleeting sight of them all the more. At my university, we had history, art, and music lecturers. Adding a science professor would have made the already epic contextual gangbang even better. All things are contextual. Culture is essential for science for it to cling to the soul. Story 11. The functions of soap should be understood by all. A bar of soap has an oil-attracting end and a water-attracting end. This is how the soap dissolves in water. Any substance that contains water will naturally draw other molecules of water to it. A little soap and water mixed together, applied to the item to be washed, and then agitated is the ideal method for using soap. Because the soap is already connected to water, there will be plenty of opportunities for it to come into touch with the oil. In addition to exposing oils, the little amount of water helps break down water-soluble compounds, which is pretty much everything. After that, use a lot of water to rinse off the soap and any oils that may have been adhered to it. The science behind when, why, and how to use soap is very straightforward, but it does assist. Story 12, Period of Geology. I got as far as typing it out, but then I found a fantastic explanation on this page. The predominance of single-celled species persists until around the middle of July in our hypothetical Earth formation timeline, which begins at 12:01 on New Year's Day. Once they finally show up, dinosaurs are only there for a short while, beginning on December 13th. Not until 5:30 p.m. on December 31st, New Year's Eve, do our oldest hominid forebears, think Lucy, even make an appearance. Homo sapiens, or modern people, show their 12 minutes before the game starts. In the 8 seconds before the clock strikes midnight, when the year comes to a close, the whole human race comes together. Even as we say 543, the world's mightiest empires come and go in a flash. Everything that happens in the last second of the year is significant, including colonialism, the Industrial Revolution, the world wars, and the internet. If this were your last second on Earth, it would be less than 1/10 of a second. Furthermore, it is mind-boggling to consider that Tyrannosaurus rex spent more time apart from Stegosaurus, or Allosaurus, depending on your Saurashane and Ornithoshane choice, than Tyrannosaurus rex spent with you. In addition, modern birds can be identified as belonging to more than 10,000 different species of dinosaurs. One group of dinosaurs, the Aves, evolved in the late Jurassic and coexisted with other, more well-known dinosaurs for around 95 million years until the extinction of the avian species. This timeline absolutely wrecks your sense of importance, and it's glorious. The idea that human history, all of it, fits into the last 12 minutes of a metaphorical year, with our entire civilization crammed into the final second, really shows how young we are in the grand story of Earth. The dinosaurs, they had the stage for millions of years, and they were late to the party compared to the first single-celled life, which ran the whole show for billions. Story 13, the sun will eventually go out of existence as soon as it contains even a single iron atom, which occurs naturally during fusion processes. In a very short amount of time, when the sun smashes iron atoms at their core, an ever increasing density of iron will form, absorbing more and more solar energy as it continues to fuse even more iron atoms. Sun death occurs as a result. We need to revise this. Even if it's somewhat deceptive, it's usually accurate. Fuel is created when the sun combines elements together. The size of the sun is determined by a combination of two forces: the gravitational pull that pulls it inward and the expansion caused by fusion. They settle into a state of balance. Maintaining equilibrium is contingent upon the amount of energy produced by the fuel they burn. Stars burn their hydrogen, helium, and subsequent elements until they reach iron on the periodic table. The smallest stars are formed when hydrogen and helium atoms fuse together. Iron is unique. What makes it so? Fusing iron atoms together actually uses more energy than it provides. In other words, they are draining the energy source. A disturbance has occurred in the balance. It still takes a star about a day to use up all of its iron reserves, though. When silicon fuses, this occurs. Iron isn't the star killer, but it could be the first atom that does the trick. Nothing would happen if I teleported an iron atom into the sun's center. When the sun's fuel runs out, its fusion force can't keep up with its gravitational pull, and the sun starts to contract. In reality, the sun's size changes as it expands and contracts. As the solar core contracts into a dwarf star, the outer layers flare up at a dizzying rate. The sun's fuel supply eventually runs out, and the transition to using iron as fuel marks the end of the sun's life cycle. However, the star is not destroyed by iron alone. Story 14, arriving a bit tardy, but still. A certain group of beetles, including elephant and rhino beetles, reproduce by means of a male's organ penetrating the female's shell and then into her body where it releases sperm. The next stop is at the female reproductive organ, where the sperm can finally take flight. Traumatic penetration describes this technique. After the bee one, I feel like male animals need a little boost, even though this isn't the most amazing thing I know. Story 15, for So, 3. The base group is Z2. Alright, just bear with me. Visualize a rope with arrows pointing in different directions. Picture this. Out of the ground protrudes a very tall pole. You can't wrap the ends of the rope around the pole without walking around it, and there's no way to continuously move it. No cutting, just moving and stretching, to tie it around the pole without raising it off the ground. Imagine for a second that you walk around the pole once with the arrows running clockwise along the rope, laying it as you go. Then you come back to your starting point and tie the knot. Manipulating the rope in any way will result in it being wrapped around the pole, whether that's twice clockwise or once counterclockwise. Taking any other desired direction from the state is also impossible. We obtain one for every integer if we examine all of these possible ways the rope might be wound around the pole. As an example, we can state that being wrapped clockwise around the pole is related with positive, whereas being wrapped counterclockwise around the pole is linked with negative. Paths A plus B indicate that you should first follow path A and then path B, because these configurations also include an inherent addition function. Here the numbers are the algebraic object linked to the pathways around the pole. Story 16, the very concept of time is deceptive. Some data suggest that the three-dimensional model of an object, let's use a baseball as an example, is destroyed the moment it falls into a black hole. On the other hand, the black hole's surface is covered uniformly with a 2D model containing the quantum data that comprise the baseball. That being the case, maybe the film strip that plays out everything, time, events, memories, etc., has a two-dimensional representation, and we are just a hologram of it. That's the kind of idea that shakes your entire understanding of reality. The notion that time, something we live by, plan around, feel, might just be an illusion wrapped around a two-dimensional surface is absolutely wild. The black hole analogy is what really seals it. If a 3D object like a baseball gets flattened into a 2D quantum blueprint on the event horizon, what does that say about us? If everything, people, history, consciousness, is encoded on a surface and projected like a cosmic hologram, then what we experience as time might just be a way our brains interpret that projection. Story 17. I know this is generalizing, but with all the moving parts of an engine, there isn't and never will be any contact between any two metal parts, because there is always a tiny bit of oil in between them. In a well-maintained engine, they last for a very long time with very little wear. Damage solely caused by abusive use or starting the engine. The engine would probably explode and solder its pistons to the block in a few minutes if oil wasn't present. Swap out the oil. Story 18. That a man's intellect doesn't reach its full potential until he's in his mid-20s. Until then, it indicates that young men are more prone to risk-taking behaviors. So many young guys lose their lives or have suicidal thoughts. I can't help but wonder if they may have been saved if they had known about this developmental stage of the brain and could have waited a little longer. Likewise, there is a connection between how cannabis affects the brain and how the brain develops. Irreversible psychosis can result from using marijuana before the brain is fully mature, particularly before the age of 18. Story 19. The evolutionary tree. A fact in science is usually something that has been measured, seen, or otherwise proven to happen in a consistent manner when tested in the same conditions. Nevertheless, there is another sense in which scientists use the term fact to describe an explanation that has been tried and proven so frequently that further evidence is not needed to support it. Thus, evolution has occurred and will continue to occur according to scientific evidence. The scientific community has long since stopped doubting the reality of biological evolution due to the overwhelming amount of data pointing in that direction. The focus instead shifts to concerns about the processes of evolution, such as how fast evolution can occur and related topics. Story 20. That we might not be able to understand the universe's actual nature because we fail to grasp a crucial moment in its timeline. For instance, the ability to observe distant galaxies has taught us almost everything about the cosmos, including a great deal of the physics involved. Observations of redshift in distant galaxies provide us with the fundamental evidence that our cosmos is expanding. The problem is that the distance between everything is growing as the universe expands. That is, their light will never reach us since the observable cosmos is contracting as its edges expand. At some distant time in the future, the cosmos will have grown so large that only nearby stars will be visible when gazing up at the night sky. At that point in time, no sentient entity will be able to learn anything about the cosmos beyond the fact that our galaxy has fewer galaxies than stars. They will never have the same level of knowledge as us, and therefore will never have a clue about the cosmos. But what if it has already happened? What if we needed to see something before we could comprehend it, and that item was an essential component of our capacity to comprehend reality? The thought that crucial knowledge that could alter our entire understanding is forever concealed and out of our reach is terrifying. This one hits like a cosmic horror story, not with monsters, but with the quiet dread of permanent ignorance. The idea that the key to understanding the universe might have already passed us by, that's unsettling in the deepest way. What if we missed the window to see some ancient cosmic event, some signal or phenomenon that would have connected all the dots? And now, as space expands faster and faster, that moment is gone forever, receding past the cosmic horizon like a message tossed into an ocean we'll never cross. Story 21. Set aside the reality that you would perish the moment you set foot on the surface of a magnetar, a type of neutron star characterized by an extremely strong magnetic field. Combine 0.5 Cu, cm of lead with 0.5 Cu, cm of antimatter lead in an effective manner. A tremendous nuclear detonation will occur, likely releasing more energy than the Tsar Bomba, the largest nuclear weapon ever detonated. That fact is not remarkable. The astounding truth is this: the area that was simultaneously occupied by the magnetic field and the 1 cubic centimeter of lead or anti-lead that you just detonated. Your nuclear explosion did not release enough energy to match its stored energy. By 10,000 times. That magnetic field you did, in fact, choose to ignore. Story 22. In your eyelashes, you can find tiny mites. The name for them is demodex. You can see them much better in this close-up. A demodex's eyelash is a big stalk, and its butts are tiny bumps. View this headshot. An off-topic anecdote. While I was a prison nurse, I overheard a woman lamenting that her eyebrows were so itchy that they were covered in scabs. We escorted her to the sick bay, where we examined her eyebrows and discovered that she had crabs amidst her brows, similar to a couple of other women who possessed them, between their legs. Okay, I know this is completely off subject, but I felt compelled to share it since it was sickening to see those little shitheads all over her eyebrows and eyelashes. Story 23, despite claims to the contrary, vitamin C does not alleviate cold symptoms. Antioxidants such as vitamin E, beta carotene, and vitamin C were mega dosed in the 90s. Despite the lack of evidence from scientific studies, many continue to believe that taking significant amounts of vitamin C helps prevent or cure colds. You might be aware that there are other purported advantages of supplementing with high amounts of specific vitamins. However, there is currently insufficient data to support the use of high vitamin dosages in the treatment of human illness. Indeed, it has been demonstrated that certain minerals and vitamins can be harmful or even poisonous when taken in excess. Take vitamin C as an example. An excess of it can prevent the absorption of copper, a mineral that the body requires. Phosphorus, in excess, can prevent calcium absorption. Vitamins A, D, and K are stored in the body and can accumulate to dangerous amounts if taken in large quantities. Story 24, the universe's final heat death. Everything about being human seems pointless and destined to be a waste of time. At some point in the future, all life in this universe will come to an end, and humanity will have accomplished nothing. No matter how much progress humanity makes, it will all be in vain until we find a method to enter a parallel universe and settle down there. Although I don't truly feel any remorse for discovering this truth, contemplating it is somewhat discouraging. This is one of those existential gut punches, the kind that makes you stare blankly at the ceiling at 2 a.m. The idea of the heat death of the universe, when every star has burned out, every black hole has evaporated, and all energy is so evenly spread that nothing can ever happen again, is deeply haunting. It paints a picture where everything we've ever built, loved, fought for, eventually disappears into cold, eternal stillness. And yeah, in that light, being human can start to feel kind of pointless. Story 25, the reality that our physiological processes rely on chemical and electrical signals. The truth that all I am is a piece of brain. Weirder things happen. You're more than simply a genius. At any one time, several regions of your brain represent different aspects of who you are, but your mind is not housed in a single location in your brain. You can alter drastically as a consequence of damage or tumors in certain regions of the brain. Instances of this include split brain patients, Charles Whitman, and the famous cases of personality shifts in Phineas Gage.